Hi, I'm Jennifer Carter, and thank you for joining me on a podcast for parents, teachers, and administrators. Today's conversation should be a good one, and I'm sure it's something on your mind. So let's get to it. Raynesha, thank you so much for joining me to have this conversation today. In fact, we are using this conversation for women's history because we feel like you're a trailblazer and that you have some important things to say about women and about the things that we can accomplish and the challenges that we can overcome. We feel like you're an excellent example of that. And I'm going to let you introduce yourself and then explain a little bit about your background so we can get into why we think you're such a trailblazer or such a role model. That's probably a better way to say it.
Thank you. Thank you. So my name is Raynesha. Hi. I'm a mother of 6. I'm training to be a policy advocate with Time for Change Foundation. That's my program that has helped me change every aspect of what I thought could not have changed for me. And I'm going to be sharing a little bit about who I am, what brought me to Time for Change, and where I'm at now, and what works for every woman who's having a hardship in life right now.
Well, that is quite an introduction. So why don't you tell us a little bit, like your origin story, because your origin story led you to Time for Change. So if you want to share a little bit, where'd you grow up and how did you transition from that life growing up to then getting to Time for Change?
So I've grown up in San Bernardino, California. I was born and raised, really raised in a background where every part of responsible model was absent from my life. So I really had no mom. I really had no father. Really had no family, period. So in the midst of that, I was a straight A student, an honor roll student, but I still felt some type of void inside of my life, inside of myself. At a young age, at just 9, I came from a background where at my childhood home, there was excessive shootings where I was nicked with the AK-47 bullet. And I lost my sister who was shot in the head with that AK-47 bullet later on.
So wait, I got to pause you. I got that. You can't just be, oh yeah, I got shot. Like what's some context? How old were you when this happened?
So I was 9 years old when it happened. I was in the living room in my childhood home in San Bernardino on the West End. And, it was my sister's prom night, and I was just being a 9-year-old, and I don't know where the guns came from. Maybe because that was a neighborhood who was against another neighborhood gang violence. I grew up in a lot of gang violence, a lot of domestic violence all the way around. I was standing in the living room and they started shooting excessively. They were continually shooting every night. And this was in 2003 of, let's say May of 2003. My sister was 14 when she got shot, and I was 9, and I had stood up. The bullet went through the kitchen. You could see bullet holes through the pots, through the walls, and I got nicked. I still have my nick wound on my leg. Growing up in a place like that, that's where my resentment for myself began. And, when a lot of good things happen to a good person who's grown up in a bad place and started spiraling to bad pathways for myself, we feel guilty about feeling right.
Yeah, that's a lot. So when you were shot, was your sister also shot at the same time?
So she was shot first. It was after her 8th grade dinner dance. She came home, she was sweeping. I looked up and it was just like a angel, like a mist. And she went outside, chasing any type of drug. It will lead you down the wrong path. She was addicted to marijuana. She went outside for marijuana and ended up getting shot from her skull, like in her head, and it by that AK-47 bullet. They rushed her to the hospital, and my mom was at the hospital. And the only thing they told her was that if she was to live, she'll be a vegetable. So the night after that, my mom was in a dead sleep, and I was asleep with her on the couch. I woke up. I got up. I was playing in the living room, and all you hear was boom, 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 boom. And I didn't know what happened. I was 9. It's a lot. It's a lot for me to take in. My life is pretty much it's a puzzle piece, and it's been hard for me to put together because I've been trying to put it together since I was little, since I was 3. I've been trying to put myself together because I had no one there putting me together.
And after the shooting, there was nobody to help or support your parents. It doesn't sound like they were very helpful either.
No, nope, nobody. It feels like everyone just gave up on me after that. My sister was a big part of my life, and she helped me in so many ways, grasp to being a young woman. So after that, I pretty much, I was in denial of myself not knowing it because I was only 9, 10, and 10 now when I started, trying to hide. I went to school every day, me just trying to be a little girl, just trying to erase without the help of without the help of therapy, anything like that, without the help of any support. The only support I knew was my school. California elementary school. I blocked out those feelings from being scared, from being nicked. It was just like a flashby. And the things that I went to do was I did chorus, I did, but I never sought help for what I've been through.
Well, at 9 years old, you can't even identify. And that's something that we tell our parents is kids don't have words. That's why we really focus in at Oak Tree on social and emotional, because you don't have words for how you're feeling, and you don't have a way to express what those emotions are. And I love that you sought refuge in your school, and that you did find at least some support and community there, because as a little girl, like you said, you don't have words for that. Like how do you even express the violence and the violation and the sense of isolation and where, you just are by yourself. So you don't have the words for that. And I totally understand that. And I'm really, really sorry that happened. At what point did you start to find yourself kind of going off the wrong path?
So throughout life, I found myself going off path when I was 22. Throughout all that, me blocking things to stop whatever I wanted to hide, or whatever feeling that didn't feel comfortable to me. Or whatever feeling that made me feel like I was getting violated psychologically. It didn't work. When I got 22, all the years before that, it was just me blocking out stuff, denying myself, denying my feelings that wanted to be not suppressed anymore, or that wanted me to know, this is what you feel, this is what you should have felt like, this is what happened. and this is the feeling and the result of it.
And so it just bubbled up. And then when you're 22.
So when I was 22, that's when I met methamphetamines. And she was my best friend. Every deal I ran to, I used her in the Bible. Her in the Bible, you know. And now I'm really out of my mind.
And when you say amphetamines, that's like meth. What do you mean by that?
Methamphetamines is meth. Crystal.
And that's pretty strong stuff to kind of really get you out of yourself, so that the way your body feels, it releases you from that, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yep. It only for a little while, Miss Carter. Only for a little while. That's what makes it a habit. That's what made me an addict at it, because it wouldn't go away. The feelings that I didn't want to feel, the hurt that I didn't want to hurt by, the pain that I felt like a challenge that I couldn't overcome, it'll all come back instantly, and I'll go and get it again, and I'll go and do whatever makes me feel like the pain is going to drift away. Just if it was a moment. So after that, I was into drugs, not that heavy, because I had a job. Now I have two kids. One was born in 2011. They were clean kids. Wasn't when I got down to where my childhood home was. And the feelings started spiraling up. And now it's 2017. Before that, I'm in and out of incarceration, violating probation, not being compliant in any part of my life, because everyone and everything I felt gave up on me. So I didn't know how to complete. I was not complete. I was not whole. And in 2017,
when you're in and out of incarceration, our incarceration system, our prison, I'm not even going to call it our prison is on the surface supposed to be rehabilitating, but you didn't find that rehabilitation when you were incarcerated.
In rehabilitation, they do you're sober, you're supposed to think with a new mind. And it's just that when I say I wasn't compliant in anybody that I wanted to be, because then I had already lost my kids.
I see.
I lost my kids due to the fact of that same home, that there was excessive shooting, violence, drunkards, and all that I had to deal with. And then that little girl that didn't get to grow up.
So you were wrestling with your own stuff, being kind of re-traumatized, and bringing your children there, which wasn't a good environment for any of you.
No.
I'm so sorry.
So they didn't tell me, and I was so weak. I was so weak. I'm just now starting to forget myself, because my babies, they didn't deserve it. And all this time I was just like, it wasn't me. It was me. It was me, because you know what? I didn't have the brain skills to think. Just because this house looked nice, and just because it feels nice, will it stay like that? Or how would I be impacted just because of all these curtains that are closed, and these masks that are faces that are masked with? It's still the same thing. Yeah. So they didn't tell me that they weren't paying the taxes on the house. And they didn't tell me that they labeled that house due to the excessive shooting, the child, whatever was going on there when I was a kid. They brought that all the way back up to with my kids now, and they labeled that same house as a danger zone.
I see.
So me not knowing and getting out of incarceration, it looks like I have my kids just living there in a danger zone when nobody told me. The code enforcement, the city, they labeled that house, no kids were allowed to be there.
Got it.
So they took my kids for unsafe, living. They put me as unfit.
Mm.
They said that I had my kids living in an unsafe environment.
Mm.
So
now, in your defense, at this point, you still haven't dealt with the trauma of being shot and watching your sister be shot. You haven't dealt with the trauma of your isolation and your abandonment.
right.
And so I know that it feels like it's your fault, but it's kind of in a context where you didn't even have the facility. You didn't have the, like you say, like the mental capacity to really do anything.
Right.
And so you lost your children. Did you go back into jail at that point?
At that point, we lost the house. I started sleeping from tent to tent. I didn't want to live at any house because anywhere that they said I could stay at made me feel uncomfortable, or someone wanted to touch a part of me. You know, I've always had a part of me touched, and it's not fun. And I chose to stay in the tent because that way nobody gets
safe. It was safer.
Yep. I felt safe. So me doing this from 2020 all the way down to 2024, I felt safe, but I'm in the wrong mind. I'm thinking the wrong ways. You know, I thought living outside that way without a support system, without healing, was the normal way to live. I then later found myself having 3 more kids and that were taken at birth. And that was throughout my whole drug path. Every time I got out of incarceration, I was back on the same spiral, because you know what? At this point, I felt like I had a purpose.
Yeah, you weren't getting fed. Like what you actually needed, you weren't getting that. And so how did you find a time for a change?
So I went to incarceration May 17th of 2024. Then I found I was pregnant with Malachi. And I love waking up there sober. I love waking up clarity inside West Valley. At the back of my mind, the number one question was, how was I going to keep sustaining this life that I started to rebuild for myself? And you know what? This time I knew I wanted to change, because I ran by Time for Change application many of times, but I never complied into submitting it. I submitted it. I had to step back into that stepping grounds because they released me on the 20th of August. My appointment with Time for Change was on August 29th. I stepped back into my old stepping grounds, even though I didn't want to. I had to be homeless for those 9 days or struggle, you know. But I woke up every day. Consistent in getting to where I needed to be. I didn't care at the time. I was big as a house, but I knew that I wanted to do right. You know, I knew that I wanted to heal. So after that, I went to Time for Change on the 29th of August. And I was just really raw and uncut. I told them, you know, I don't have nothing. And I'm not here to just lay on nobody's couch. A shelter, that's all I need, is a roof over my head. And I'll show you guys that I can perform. My performance is way better than I look right now. You know, just give me a chance. I said, I have been through a life where everything has given up on me. And I started to give up on myself. I said, if you give me this chance, I'll embrace the person you ain't never met. And that's what I did on August 29th of 2024. Time for Change accepted me for who I was that day. You know, a person that just got out of jail, a person that's been through the struggle, a person that was pregnant, was homeless, living in the back of Dollar General in the heavy lifting cart. Nothing but my 2 shoes, my backpack, and my baby in my stomach was all I had.
Can I just say, if you hadn't told me that, I would never have guessed, never in a million years, that was the pathway, where just a few months ago, you were there and now you're here. Like, I don't know if you are proud of yourself, but this is why you're talking to us. Like, what a dramatic and radical shift where you looked at yourself and you looked at where you were and you said, I'm not satisfied with this and I can do this.
Right. Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And not just that, like being humble enough to ask for the help to find that thing that's actually, because it's always been in you. You just needed somebody to help pull it out.
Yep. And that's exactly what Time for Change did. The staff and just the founder, you know, her story, I resonate a lot with it.
Yeah.
Because just coming from nothing and building something on my own, you know, from a positive mindset, from the root on up, from just pulling everything out that has nothing to do with what's going on right now. I've learned how to comply in myself. I've learned how to be a woman. I've learned how to take responsibilities in parts of my life that I didn't before. I've learned how to face challenges and resolve them with everything I got. And now I am from home, now being from a client, now they're training me up to be their policy advocate. Now they have placed me in their permanent housing. I have my own apartment. They went to my CFT CPS meeting. I got to keep my Malachi. And now it's a whole 360, me being in this program. They are allowing me to have visits with the kids that I lost in 2017 and seek family reunification with them. Now, so Time for Change support. I mean, if anything, change is worth it. You know, it's worth that thought in your brain that you want to take a risk to do all the negative stuff and take a risk in doubting yourself. It's time to take a risk in thinking positive of yourself, because that's what works. That's what works.
So of all those things that you listed, I noticed, and I'm going to say on your behalf, that you accomplished those things. But I feel like the most important thing that you clearly have accomplished is nurturing that little girl that didn't get what she needed.
I love what you just said. I love what you just said, because you know what? That's exactly what happened. In these groups that I'm taking within Time for Change or within the NA that I've been taking, even at NA meetings, I've been finding little pieces of me around San Bernardino, and I've just been weaving them back together with the skills that I'm obtaining and the tools that I got. And that's why I am able to tell you what I'm telling you today.
Well, I don't necessarily know if people who are listening know what Time for a Change is. Can you just, we heard the impact, but what are the services as you're advocating for them? What are the services they offer, and how does the program actually work?
So Time for Change is an emergency shelter where they place women with children and single women in their residential shelter program, and they help them get, our goal is to help each and every woman reach a life of self-sufficiency, to maintain a life outside of needing anyone, you know, to learn how to provide for themselves, to budget. We also offer classes like 12-step. We do NA there. We offer drug and alcohol services with a licensed counselor, case management, one-on-ones. We offer family reunification, legal services, supportive housing services. We have 3 additional programs that we're doing right now, and 2 is to help. 2 is for reentry. 1 is called the WISH program, where it helps those who have been in prison or coming out of prison get back on their feet. Whether it's housing assistance, helping them pay their first month and last month's rent, move-in deposit. If they're staying with the family member, we have a stipend for the family member, so that the family member will get paid for their portion. Employment services, where we help those who have been incarcerated find job placement, work on resumes, build skills, you know. And then we have something called the IAR. That's for people who are getting out of county jail. And it's kind of the same services within our standard program. You don't have to be a client. We offer the same services as I mentioned, like the reunification, the housing, the drug and alcohol counseling, the mental health sessions, but you don't have to be a client with that program. You just have to have came out of county jail within 24 or 25 the years, 24 to 25. But whatever it is, you can have them call that number and we can get them screened and helped right away. And then the third program we're doing right now is rental assistance. We're helping families who are having a hard time, with back rent, old rent, helping them pay that part, pay that portion
the back
of the
part, and then get caught up.
Yep. So that's something that we do help with. We support. We are very supportive in anything dealing with marginalized communities, the members of our communities, Black and Brown opportunities with the Bebop Center. If you have an idea and you want to pitch it and you're very serious about it, you can go to the Bebop Center and they'll help you out. You can actually call Time for Change and we'll assist you on the information needed so that you can get assisted. And
how many,
just as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask, how many women are in the program?
So I would say it is around, I'll say, county, so the HOH clients are the Homes of Hope. So that's 10. So I'll say roughly around 21.
That's fantastic. And the founder has a story very similar to yours. She wrote a grant, founded this thing, and it's just grown over time.
Yes.
And as a policy advocate, what are you learning to do?
So I'm learning how to research policies. So I'm at the beginning stage where I'm on the planning committee for the Mother's March movement, which is happening May the 18th and 2026 at the state capitol in Sacramento. Nice. It's solid. It has solidarity. It's solid with the Black Mothers movement, the Black Mothers March. I'm also helping with the IRRC and the CBA in housing, resoluting ways for people who are experiencing homelessness, coming up with resources, working with the San Bernardino County Homeless Division. I'm also we've also just researched on the Prop 50, voted for the Prop 50. I get the clients to feel comfortable about voting because a lot of them, it's their first time voting or they just don't feel like their vote matters. So my job is just to have them feel comfortable, place presentations on why their vote matters, what's Prop 50, saying, whatever you vote, we're voting together, and don't feel at all ashamed for what you vote for. The point is to get your voice lifted up there so that, California has a chance to win at a point in time in all of our lives, for it's a better future for all of us. Researching the bills that are getting placed out there or researching things that should be changed. Like we're working on the child welfare demands that are out there now in ways that they need to be implemented, and more clarity for those who don't understand what they're going through at this time. So a lot of what I've experienced in life is what I'm going for in policy advocate, and that's just like the infrastructure and stuff like that's going on in San Bernardino and at the state level, so that just keeping all informed of what's going on.
And, the interesting thing about advocacy work is that you're advocating, but you're also learning, because then you're learning about things and movements that you didn't even know about, I'm sure.
Right.
So you mentioned the Black Mothers March. That may not have been something that you even knew existed, but now you have this interesting new new thing that you find it's your affinity group. It is a cause you can believe in. It's something that you understand. And then when you're an advocate, you end up running into all these things where you're like, oh my gosh, that really resonates with me, and I can be of help and support.
Yes.
That's amazing. Are you proud of yourself?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there was times in my life when I would actually do a good job and not believe the people that told me that. But now it's like, I'm on the right, like my mind is in the right place. I'm around the right people. And I'm just getting incorporated into a life that at first felt uncomfortable, but it felt uncomfortable because it was a life made for me. It's just that I wasn't there. I wasn't in the mind to take that life. I'm starting to believe a lot of me has really changed, and I feel that change is very powerful and very beautiful and very unique. It's a beauty that you can't see it on the face of anyone. It's inside.
Yeah, you can, because you are glowing. And I don't know if anybody else has told you, but you are gorgeous. Like the thumbnail of this with your face is gonna, people will just catch it because you're glowing. You're radiating that pride.
Thank you so much. And you are too.
Thanks. What's your last piece of advice that you want everyone to understand and know?
I want everyone to understand and know to not give up, even when you're struggling. That's where you need to start. Start where you're struggling. Start where it feels bad. Because you know what? If you just keep bypassing those pieces that don't feel right to you, they're going to keep coming back. So start healing where it hurts. That's don't give up. Strive because it works. And I'm telling you, from a lifetime of violence, from a lifetime of being forgotten about, from a lifetime of struggle, from the lifetime of, not some days I've had no food, but in some days I've had nowhere to sleep. I started where I was struggling at, and this is where I'm at now. So change is powerful. Keep up the good work, even when you think you're doing bad. Think positive of yourself. Don't doubt yourself. Don't feel like you're failing yourself. And when you work at it so hard, don't let no one tell you that you're doing the wrong thing.
Well, you will not get me to say you're doing the wrong thing. It has been an absolute pleasure and an honor to hear your story and to share with all of the people who will hear us at Women's History Month, because you really are a role model for toughing it out and changing.
Thank you.
If you like what you heard, or even if you have some feedback, put a comment in our comment section. Be sure to like our page and make sure that you subscribe so that you can hear when the next video comes out. Thanks so much again for joining us.